Alright, we made it to the tippy top of Pahvant Butte. As you can see, we are on the highest point for a long ways in any direction. This is the doghouse, dogs. Show the doghouse to me. Might get a little western going down this. Hey everybody, MinerBiker. We are out just to the north and west of Fillmore, Utah in Millard County. And what we're doing today is we're gonna go explore Pahvant Butte, which is this big volcano that sticks up out of the middle of Millard Valley out here. So can't actually ride all the way to the summit of it, but we're gonna loop around it on the bikes and climb up to the lower peak there to the on the right on the bikes, and then we'll actually hike up to the top of it. There's some cool historical stuff as well as some really fascinating geological features out here, so you can go check it out. Have a good adventure. I am riding my Fezzari Kings Peak fat bike today because it's about as good a bike as you're ever going to find for just coming out here and exploring around in the wilderness, because it can handle basically any conditions you come across. So gonna have fun. It's me, got both dogs and my wife, whole family out here. Good times. So this volcano, Pahvant Butte, is about 15,500 years old, and it erupted out of the bottom of Lake Bonneville, which up until about 10,000 years ago, a massive lake, covered the majority of the state of Nevada, probably about a third of the state of Utah, and some chunks of southwest Idaho and southeast Oregon. And this volcano erupted up out of the floor of it into an island. And as you look at the volcano, you can actually see the big bench, maybe about a third to half the way up. You can see that big bench around the edge of it, and that is actually the lake shore. So that's how deep Lake Bonneville was. Just like how even up around Salt Lake Valley and all around where Lake Bonneville used to be, you can see the old lake benches, and that's the same thing here on Pahvant Butte. So we're here right on the west side of the butte. Nice dog over there. He's having a good time. What about this dog? She having a good time? What about you? You having a good time?
Absolutely.
I'm having a good time. Let's keep going. Alrighty, we're gonna keep going straight right up the face of that mountain. Just kidding. That's a little steep to climb even on a low gear fat bike. I don't think even an e-bike can make it up that. Maybe part way, but not all the way. Hill climb challenge. My wife's 29er trail bike versus my 26er fat bike. She might have a lot less rotational weight, but I got a lot more traction. And this is pretty loose and fairly steep, and the fat bike pulls away. Ooh, this volcanic sand slash gravel stuff is really loose. 4.8-inch fat bike tires though. Go right through it like there's hardly anything. No problem at all. So cool. So this is like volcanic tuff that is built, that this cone is made out of. It's like super fine volcanic kind of sand. That's cool. There's also a really big halo around the sun right now. Must mean there's a storm coming. That's so cool how you can see all the different layers from either different stages of the same eruptions or separate eruptions. You know, all this bedding layered up here, and then you've got the more solid cliff of tuff up there on the top. up a lot of sand and dust there, little dog. Good running. This piece of high-tech instrumentation is how you measure rainfall out in the middle of nowhere. Probably back in a little older times before they had more sophisticated ways. So you have this big metal tray thing that rain falls on, and it slants towards this end. And you got this rain gutter that catches the water. Then the water goes down through the pipe and into the little holding tank buried in the ground underneath, which, being buried like that and barely exposed at all, minimizes evaporation. And then you can measure how much water is in there and calculate how much surface area this tray is. You know how much it rained. And then also you got some water stored. You could water your cows or horses or something. So this is called the lace curtain right here on the north side of the butte. So this is all volcanic tuff that flowed off the side of the mountain during an eruption and then came into the cold water of the lake. And if you imagine, you think about when you take like a piece of red hot steel or some metal and stick it into cold water to cool it off or temper it, it starts to boil the water immediately around it. That's why it bubbles and fizzes until the metal cools off. So you think about that, that's kind of the same thing that happened with this rock. It was superheated and it came off and dumped into the water, which basically started to boil the water just immediately around it as it heated it. And then as the water boiled and bubbled, it created all these little pock marks and stuff in the surface of the molten rock. Great big old pack rat or bird's nest up there inside of it. Pretty cool. Helping me with gravel. That was a good little cruise. Now we're kind of rounding the northeast corner of the butte. Get up on top of this hill, we'll be looking over towards like Holden and Fillmore. Up that way up towards the summit. Over this way is the town of Fillmore, the town of Holden, McCormick, that Scipio summit over there that I-15 goes over, then back over towards Delta. Another one of those water measuring thingies. Yeehaw! Oh, fat bike is so at home here in this just buried terrain and ground conditions. It doesn't care. It just takes anything and everything on and handles it just fine. So much fun. Now we're riding along the east side of the butte, so we're actually heading south now. Looking at the east side of the butte, so we're gonna go down here to the kind of the southeast corner of the butte, and there's an old road that climbs you up onto the lower peak up there, and we'll ride up to that, and then we'll hike from there up onto the main peak. Like having a good time. Beautiful temperatures out here, probably about 50 degrees. Had a little bit of rain over the past week and stuff, so the ground conditions are really nice. We're the only ones out here. Beautiful. This here is the road that climbs you up onto the lower peak, which is the one straight ahead. Then from there you can hike up onto the upper peak, which is the one that's straight ahead now. Good sand. Oh, fat bike. Killing it in the desert. Whew. Yeah, boys. Do that without fat tires. Whew. Pretty steep climb. Dog thinks I'm going too slow. Almost there though. There's the main peak of Pahvant Butte. Straight ahead there. And here's the top of the lower peak. And yes, there is some very interesting history behind this spot, as I'm sure you can tell. All right, so we're on the top of the lower Pahvant Butte peak here. So as you can see, this is not just some barren mountaintop. There's some very interesting things up here. Namely, you've got this monstrous, partially underground concrete kind of bunker thing, and then these two rings of concrete pillars. You got an inner ring and an outer ring. So, very interesting stuff. The story behind this is back in, I believe it was 1923. There was a fellow who had the idea to come out here on the top of this mountain in the middle of this monstrous big valley where it's very rarely, if ever, not windy, and build a gigantic windmill power generation station up here. So the idea was, is you got these two rings of columns, the inner ring and the outer ring, as you can hopefully tell. All the columns are, you know, they're level at the top. So the way I understand it, the plan was he was gonna have like a track, a circular track on each of these rings of pillars. There'd be two tracks, and the windmill would sit on top of that, and it would be able to pivot on those tracks to be able to always be pointed into the wind. And then it wasn't going to be like a typical windmill like you think of nowadays with the great big long turbine blades. This is actually supposedly going to have like some big kind of like funnels that would like funnel the wind and channel it into a narrower throat, which would make the wind speed up even more just by the laws of physics as you channel the air in. And then as that air channeled in, it would speed up, and then that would turn some turbines. And then that whole thing would be able to pivot on these two tracks to always be pointed into the wind. So kind of cool history. Like I say, it's almost it's 2020 right now. That was in 1923, so this thing is 97 years old up here. Pretty amazing to think about. This the doghouse, dogs? Show the doghouse to me. All this graffiti and side of the old bunker. So I'm guessing this is where like the generators or something would have been housed that the turbines turned or something. I'm not entirely sure how it works. Never actually been able to see or find or ever even actually heard of like actual any like detailed plans of how this thing was going to work. Just kind of vague stuff. But it's definitely very cool. Alright, we're gonna go just stash the bikes down here in these trees a little bit somewhere. Just so if somebody happens to come by, they're not just sitting out here in obvious sight. And then we're gonna go hike up onto the main peak. We are on foot now, hiking our way up the ridge line, heading up there to the top. Looking back over towards the lower peak where the old windmill is. And down here through the crater of the volcano where the last eruption blew the whole side of the cone out. Then up towards the peak where we're going. Very rugged terrain. Should be fun. This terrain is so crazy. You got the hard outer crust, and then underneath you got the lighter colored tuff that almost looks like it should be like sand dunes, but it's not. It's hard rock. Alright, we made it to the tippy top of Pahvant Butte. As you can see, we are on the highest point for a long ways in any direction. So here we start off looking to the north. Here's the town of Delta, Intermountain Power Plant, up towards like Flemington and Oak City. This is the Canyons mountain range, over towards McCormick and up towards Scipio. Got the town of Holden over here, and then the Pahvant Mountains. A little dog just coughed. You got the Pahvant Mountains and the town of Fillmore right there, over towards the town of Meadow and Kanosh. There's the lower peak where the old windmill site is. You've got the big main crater of Pahvant Butte here. Way off down towards the south, clear down towards Milford. You got Clear Lake out here, the Cricket Mountains, off towards Notch Peak and Swayze Peak, out towards the West Desert. So much country. And if you imagine all this, so where we're at on the highest peak, the lower peak over there, this part down here, and then all the way out where you can kind of see the footprint of the butte. Originally all this was one big mountain, one big volcano, and then probably the last big eruption completely blew almost the majority of the cone completely away and opened up this huge crater. Such crazy terrain. Don't fall down. That's steep. Really loose. Yeah, hill we just come down. That's like steep. And holy cow, it's loose. Riding up the trail right up into the crater. That's the summit straight ahead up there where we climbed up to. Sand surfing at its finest. Oh, whoa, that's soft. Right. Holy cow. Woo-hoo. That's crazy how soft that is. Yeah, before the track in the bottom is very, even with the big tires. That's funny. Anya, quit throwing gravel in my face. One more coming. Idiot. Why the heck you trying to drive a minivan up this? Holy mackerel! It's so deep. That is crazy how deep that gets. Why in the here trying to drive a freaking minivan up into someplace like that? Holy cow, people. Alrighty, made it back down off the volcano. Didn't cause an eruption. Now we're back out in the flats, cruising back to the truck. It's been a good little adventure. Beautiful day, perfect conditions out here. Over here, buddy. You found your way around it before, remember? Yep, right there. Good job. Go over here, honey. That works. Woohoo! Hey everybody, back at the truck. That was fun. Made it all the way around into the very top of Pahvant Butte. And that was way cool. Awesome history, incredible views, crazy cool landscape and geology, and just a great time out with the family and the dogs. Of course, they're part of the family. So anyways, thanks everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't worry, we did hang out for a little while and make sure that the crazy people trying to drive up the really sandy loose canyon, their minivan, actually made it back out. We were kind of wondering if we were gonna have to take our truck with four-wheel drive and a tow strap and everything and go get them, but thankfully they managed to see the error of their ways and backed their way all the way back out and didn't get stuck. So good on them. No idea why they were trying to drive a minivan up there in the first place. But thanks everybody for watching. Give a like for these awesome dogs. such good pooches. And do a share and a subscribe for Fezzari. Such great bikes. Kings Peak is absolutely in its element out here. Who says fat bikes are just for snow? They are so good out here in the sand, in the loose, in the dry, and they can handle just about anything you throw at them. Anyways, thank you for watching. Keep digging up new places to ride.